lead me in the direction of the clothing holds? It's gonna be sweater weather soon. I want to be ready. I have a feeling it's gonna be a hard winter.
I have just the thing.
Another year, another season, and it's never been so unpredictable, with so many characters untouched by the pikes, some more than others, so many relationships unruined, so many families with all their members. Season 10 is sure to change everything I've just said. I think there's gonna be some big deaths, and a lot of them. So in this video we're going to be predicting who's going to die in season 10. Of course, remember, this is a death video, so I'm not going to put Michonne in this list because I don't think she dies. However, she is confirmed to leave the show, and I think she's going to do that by boat, just like in the comics, but for a different reason. I think she's going to find Rick and appear in the third Rick Grimes movie, and then depending on the fate of Rick Grimes, I think she's going to return back to the main show near the Commonwealth storyline. However, I do think that storyline is going to be toned down a lot. If you've been subscribed to the channel for a while, then you know I think the CRM storyline completely replaces the Commonwealth one, if not completely removes it. And I feel like the Commonwealth one would make a bit more sense in the show, obviously, because it would be more like Oceanside. I think that's where Maggie is, I think that's where Michonne will go. And so the CRM will be somewhere completely different, and I think it will only mainly exist in the movies that Rick Grimes is having. Of course, Fear the Walking Dead, at the time of this video, is currently tackling the idea of the CRM, but I think after this season, something big will happen and then it will just remain in the movies. Of course, the trailer for season 10 hasn't come out by the time of this video, so we could see some CRM, but I'm really doubtful we will. I think this is going to remain in the movies now. There's a death that is due to come up in season 10 that I've been looking forward to for so long. It's one of the most brutal and violent deaths I think the show will see. Now, Glenn and Abraham will always be the most brutal, sad and devastating deaths, not just in The Walking Dead, but in any TV show, movie or game that I've experienced. It is genuinely one of the saddest things I've seen. It's one of the coolest and most memorable deaths, and it made for my favourite episode of The Walking Dead so far. But the death I'm talking about is Gabriel's comic death. So much happens to him in such a short amount of time that I'm actually doubtful the show will do it. Not only does he break his ankle on the ladder, he gets stabbed by Beta, his guts pouring out, and then he gets eaten alive by walkers. When this season 10 trailer drops and you see someone on a water tower, be scared for that character. If they are scouting on top of a water tower with a sniper, I think we found our victim. And a bit later on in this video, I'm going to show you who I think gets this death, and I can't wait to show you. So, now you know all you need to know. Let's predict the deaths of season 10. Number 1. Alpha. If you didn't know already, Alpha's death is the thing to really kick off the Whisperer War. Yes, the characters cross the borders, but when Alpha dies, it actually unleashes hell to Alexandria. Beta is absolutely devoted to Alpha, and when Alpha dies, he brings the biggest horde you've ever seen to Alexandria, or at least that's in the comics. Remember, this could go different ways, but in the comics, Negan actually escapes Alexandria. He gets close enough to Alpha, pretends he's one of them, pretends he wants in on their plans, but he stabs Alpha and decapitates her. He takes her head and brings it back to Alexandria. He shows it to Rick and Andrea, and from that point, Rick in the comics is completely on a different level with Negan. Doesn't completely trust him, but he knows Negan has proven himself. However, in the season 9 finale, in the show's version of Negan's redemption arc, it started off with Judith. From the start of season 9, we've seen he's kind of redeeming himself through Judith. And as much as Daryl cares for Judith, I don't think that's enough that he just saved her and his dog. Obviously, it's a huge deal that Negan saved Judith and his dog, but we can't forget the amount of torment that Daryl went through. It's going to take a lot for Daryl to trust Negan. And who do we know is the only person left in the show who could get through to Daryl? Carol. Alpha killed Henry, that's another child she's lost. I do think Negan is going to kill Alpha and bring back the head, almost exactly like in the comics, but I think it's going to have something to do with Carol. I think he's going to let Carol get the kill. Now, I have thought to myself, could this be Beta? Could Beta be the death instead? There's some unfinished business between Beta and Daryl. But does Alpha feel the same way about Beta that Beta would feel about Alpha if Alpha died? I don't think she does. To Alpha, I think it'll just be another Whisperer lost. I think she'd grant punishment either way. The thing about the Whisperer War that really makes it what it is when Alpha dies, Beta completely unleashes his anger. He loses control and we start to see through the character. And remember, Angela Kang says she was thinking about making a Beta backstory. I feel like this would happen just after or just before Alpha's death. That's like the base of the character. I think Alpha has to die for the Whisperer War arc to happen, so that's why Alpha is number 1. Number 2. Ezekiel. Now, I've always liked Ezekiel. I think he's such a great example of how Robert Kirkman's characters are so authentic and original. We first met King Ezekiel in season 7 as the leader of the kingdom. Of course, he had Shiva the tiger with him, and as much as this kind of ruined the immersion a little bit, a CGI tiger, she had a realistic backstory behind her and Ezekiel. Shiva is a part of Ezekiel. When she died, it was another part of the king that died with her. And just before that, in season 7, he lost Benjamin, pretty much his older son. Fast forward to season 9 and the character's changed, but he's still there. He's still the king to a lot of people. But then at the end of season 9, he loses everything in the space of 2 episodes. In episode 15, it was revealed Alva had killed Henry and placed his head on a pike. So at this point, Ezekiel has lost 2 sons. In episode 16, it's revealed the kingdom has fallen, the pipes have broke, the kingdom is no longer in working order. And so halfway through in the finale, we see Ezekiel gone. The king character has crumbled away. He no longer speaks in Old English. When he talks to Daryl alone, it's evident that Ezekiel is not happy. He's just lost all hope. Then at the very end of the finale, we find Carol leaves him, and at this point we know Ezekiel has lost everything. He's got Jerry, and we heard him talk on the radio, he seems okay, but he's lost everything. But the most important thing here is that he blames Daryl. When he talks to Daryl in the finale, we see Ezekiel without his king act. He's just Ezekiel talking to Daryl, and it's obvious now he's got a certain distaste towards Daryl for starting all of this. It's clear he blames Daryl for the Whisperer conflict, and of course Ezekiel lost everything to something he didn't even want anything to do with. Throughout season 9, Ezekiel was all about uniting the communities, doing it together, but especially when he started that fair for the specific reason to unite people, all it's done is divide people. So I think Ezekiel's time is up. I think he's going to die in season 10. Now, whenever I've said Ezekiel's going to die in season 10, people comment all the time that he wouldn't die episodes later when he's just skipped his pike death, which is probably the most stupid thing I've ever heard. It's not the first time a character has narrowly avoided his death, only to die a few episodes after. We saw this with Abraham. In the comics, Abraham was shot by Dwight with an arrow to the eye. Denise got that death and he died episodes later by Lucille. And of course, this happened because Abraham in the show is all about redeeming himself and becoming strong and dying for a reason. Being shot in the eye wouldn't have worked. However, sacrificing himself for the group and being strong is what that character was about all the way through, coming back, redeeming yourself and sacrificing himself for the group and being strong. So what death would fit Ezekiel? Well, since the beginning, Ezekiel's character has been about losing things and coming back from it and uniting. But as we saw in the finale, he's becoming a little bit distasteful towards Daryl. In the comics, there's a character called Morton Rose, and he dies by getting his throat ripped out by Rick. Almost exactly like Joe. And he's just against Rick. Because it's because of the Whisperer conflict that he lost his wife and son. Who else do we know who's alive in the show that has lost their wife and son to the Whisperers? Ezekiel. Although Carol isn't dead, it's his wife, and he has lost her. He lost his son. All of these things have happened because of the Whisperer conflict. So if Ezekiel showed any resentment towards anyone, with Rick not being in the comic, it's Daryl. Daryl caused the Whisperer conflict. And so when the Whisperer War starts to arise, expect Ezekiel to change quite a bit. Now, do I think he's definitely going to get this death? I'm not certain about that part of it, but will he die in season 10? I really strongly think he will. King Ezekiel's character has completely faded away, he's just Ezekiel. So that's why I think Ezekiel is going to die in season 10. Number 3. Gage. If you didn't know, this is the last surviving kid at Hilltop. Gage literally lost all his friends to the Pikes. Of course, those characters being Henry, Addie, Rodney. And I think he's gonna die because he's like one of those kids that blame other people. The superior blame themselves, the inferior blame others. And as much as I think Ezekiel will die Morton Rose's death, I think Gage will die as his son Brandon Rose's death. Brandon despises Rick, he hates everyone in the community. He goes to Negan's cell and tries to offer him a deal. You're free to go if you take me to the Whisperer camp. We can tell them what Rick's plans are, so their plan won't work. He lets Negan out of the cell, and Negan kills him. This is a great example of Negan's character, his loyalty, his to him fair thinking. It's a typical Negan method. If you try to betray, if you try to distrust anyone, you will die as punishment for it. And I think that's a great way to bring Negan's character back into the light of who Negan really is. In season 9, he was not nearly enough in character as he should have been. And in season 10, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And I think Gage is the perfect way to do that. So I do think Gage is going to die in season 10. Number 4. Connie. The first thing I noticed about when these new characters arrived in season 9 was that Connie and Kelly are sisters in the show, but one of them is male and they're in a relationship in the comics. I didn't really get why that was changed. That was until the second half of season 9 when we saw Connie with Daryl. It's clear they're setting up a relationship between these characters, and I like that interaction on screen. For me personally, it's one of few relationships on The Walking Dead that aren't cringy to watch on screen. It works really, really well. We get to see another side to Daryl that I don't think we've ever seen before. But then I realised something. Andrea's comic death is coming up, and Rick is not in the show, and Michonne is leaving, so who's gonna be here to get that death when it comes up? Now, they can completely skip the death, but I don't think they will. We saw in the second half of season 9, Daryl is the leader now, and it's very clear he's going to get into a relationship with Connie, and I think Connie is going to get Andrea's death. They could just completely skip the death, but I don't think they will. Connie isn't nearly as big a character as comic Andrea, I know that of course, but with Rick gone, with Michonne going, it would make sense for Connie to die. It just really makes sense to me. I think Connie's going to die in season 10. This death wouldn't just push Daryl forward, but it would push Kelly and the rest of the new characters forward to fight in the Whisperer War. Not to say they wouldn't if someone didn't die, but it's just a way to push the story forward. I think Connie will get Andrea's death in season 10. Number 5. Alden. Now, the only thing I see that would stop Alden from dying in the Whisperer War story arc is if Maggie returns, because he's actually a bit like Dante, with his only connection being the fact that he had some kind of connection with Maggie when she was in the show. But since we've seen him as the good savior, he's been put on the back burner until the Whisperer War story arc. Straight after Enid died, he was with the main characters in all of the scenes. When the trailer first came out for episode 16 of season 9, he was in every single shot. It's clear the Whisperer story arc has pushed him to the top of the characters, and he's going to avenge Enid, but I don't think he's going to kill Alpha at all. I think he's going to kill a few Whisperers and die in the process. When Beta brings that big herd to Alexandria, I think that's where he's going to die. He's going to die protecting the communities. I think he'll be completely overpowered and stabbed a lot by the Whisperers, and it's going to be quite traumatizing, honestly. I think a lot of us are underestimating how violent this will be in the show. There's a character called Samuel in the comics. He's a lot smaller than Alden is right now in the show, but I think he's going to die similar to that, maybe the exact way. This actually brings us on to the next one. Number 6. Nabela. If you didn't know, Nabela is Jerry's wife. They have kids now, and I purely think Nabela needs to die for Jerry to go on. He's going to lose Ezekiel as well, and I think Nabela will have the same death as Paula in the comics. She was getting devoured by walkers, and her last words were to Rick to keep her kids safe. I just feel like Nabela needs to die. I'm surprised she wasn't on the Pikes, because I know Jerry won't die, but someone needs to die in this family. It's been foreshadowed a few times, like when one of them will die. And in season 10, expect a lot more lines from Nabela. At the end of season 9, episode 12, there was this scene. It was a few montages of people being happy, and every single person in these scenes had a person die from each one. The only scene with people in them that were untouched was the newer characters and Jerry and Nabela. I think Paula's death is perfect for Nabela. That's why I think Nabela will die in season 10. Number 7. Beta. Of course, like I said, this could easily be switched around depending on which one dies first, but the Whisperer story arc ends with the leader dying, which is Beta. In the comics, Aaron and Jesus are the ones to do it, but in the show, I think it will be Aaron and Daryl, or possibly Negan and Daryl. It's hard to say without getting a good direction of how Negan and Daryl are doing in terms of forgiveness, but 100% Daryl's gonna have to have something to do with Beta's death, because like I said, they've got unfinished business. Even before they met, there was tension there because they're so alike. I think Beta and Alpha either way are 100% going to die, and Daryl's going to have 100% a big part in Beta's death. Now, before I get to number 8, which I've saved for Gabriel's comic death, I have an honourable mention, and I've just a few things to say. There's a side character called Scott. He is such a safe character to kill. He's quite a big side character at Alexandria, and when walkers are being literally brought to Alexandria from the Whisperers, you just know he's going to be on the front lines of that war, and he's 100% going to die. Now, I think it's time we talk about this big death. Who is going to be the one to have Gabriel's comic death? Well, I think I've figured it out. Number 8. Sadiq. Firstly, I don't think Gabriel is capable of having his comic death anymore. He's changed a lot from what he was. Whoever has this death is going to be on top of a water tower with a sniper. That doesn't mean the person in the show has to have a sniper in their hands. This just means they're going to be up above on the water tower to warn the group of any walkers or when the herd arrive. So whoever is up there needs good eyes. And I think when Gabriel got that illness and he lost sight in one eye, that was the writers saving him from potentially getting his death. Whoever is on this water tower has to be the scared type. Gabriel in the comics gets panicky and he starts shouting, which gets him killed. Gabriel just wouldn't do this now. He's matured a lot and he's developed really well. When we met him, he was a coward and weak for sure, but I just don't see him doing that now. Yes, he was a bit of a coward when we met him, but he's developed really well. I think Gabriel is completely safe from his comic death at least. So how did I come up with Sadiq? Well, the love rectangle that's going on between Rosita, Gabriel, Sadiq and Eugene is untouched even after the pikes have happened. And someone has to die. That's how it is. That's how development is done. Someone will die. I don't think Rosita will die. She has surpassed her comic death, of course, much like Ezekiel, but she's showing signs that there's still some story left with Eugene and Gabriel. And of course, she's pregnant. So the other 3 characters are pretty much revolving around that. So I know Rosita's safe. I know Eugene still has a big part to play. With the radio, of course, after he's fixed it, he's going to get in contact with Sophie from the Commonwealth, and from there, that's where that story arc really starts off. Of course, he could die, another character could take that place, but I don't think that's how it would work. Eugene is going to fix that radio. Of course, it would still make sense if he did die like Gabriel's comic death, because he would be the one to shout out and get a bit panicky. We know Eugene. So then I'm just left with Gabriel himself and Sadiq. Like I said, Gabriel isn't like that anymore. He wouldn't get scared. I don't think he's capable of being a scout. But then Sadiq, he's a medic, he's a doctor. Why would he be up on the water tower? But then I remembered what he said at the end of season 9. He wanted to tell the story of the characters fighting because that's what is most honourable. You want to remember them how they were fighting, not how they were slaughtered. And because of what Sadiq witnessed when those characters were killed, he would want to fight. He would want to be up on a water tower, at least helping any way he can, which in this case in the comics Gabriel is on that water tower to check for the herd to alert the group, but he's too late. We saw in the season 9 premiere that Sadiq is quite jumpy, he is scared. He's not used to really being out in the front lines of anything, and so the show has already showed us a character subconsciously that is already quite a scared character, and so I think Sadiq will be getting Gabriel's comic death. This of course would add to the story of Rosita's baby not having a biological father alive, Gabriel would be able to be the father for it. And of course, Eugene seeing Gabriel and Rosita in this happy family would leave him in a room by himself on the radio, leading to him talking to the Commonwealth. I think this love rectangle will split, and I think Sadiq will be the reason for it. I think Sadiq will get Gabriel's comic death. I think Sadiq will die in season 10. So there's my list. I think 8 main characters will die in season 10. Of course, there's going to be a lot more deaths, but I don't think there's going to be any less. On the top right of your screen, there's going to be an eye icon. Just click or tap on that and you can vote in the poll. Do you agree with my list? Or do you disagree? Do you think a different character will die? And especially, who do you think is going to get Gabriel's comic death? And of course, either way, make sure you comment down below what you think. I'm genuinely going to read all comments. Make sure to comment your list below. Who do you think will die in season 10? And of course, I should probably clear the air about a theory I made a couple of months ago about something I feel like could still be true. I'm talking about the Sadiq betrayal theory. Some people read that a bit wrong. They thought I was saying Sadiq is a traitor. I wasn't. I'm saying he made a choice that would have betrayed the group. Being a traitor suggests straight up being on the opposite side of where you're from. And of course, I don't believe Sadiq would be on the Whisperer's side, because like a lot of you said, Carl would have died for nothing. That theory suggests that Sadiq betrayed the group by a single choice. Doesn't mean he did it a lot, but that he had no choice. If you want to go and watch that video, that will be on the top right of your screen right about now. But I just wanted to clear the air a bit more so you know that I'm not just adding 2 theories into one. I genuinely think Sadiq will die. Could he have betrayed the group? I do think he could have. But as a lot of you know, I just like making cases for theories that people have, and so when I saw that people were wondering if Sadiq was telling the truth or not, I definitely thought I should make a video about it. Also remember to check out my Finding Rick Grimes playlist. It includes all my videos so far and yet to come about Rick Grimes and where he could be. And of course, if you want to support me and you enjoyed the video, then make sure to press the like button. It genuinely helps. Season 10 is closer than you think. Make sure to subscribe so that you are the first to hear about The Walking Dead. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.